Hello, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com, and it's that time again. It's Tuesday, so it's office hours. Ask me anything. I stick around for about an hour and take any question you can throw at me, usually about CX and UX, but you can technically ask me anything. I'll do my best. If it's over my head, I will admit it. Of course, I always appreciate when people join us on YouTube and will subscribe and ring that bell. It's the least I can ask. And of course, won't you please have empathy for the like button? Let YouTube know that you enjoy these videos and that give me a little algorithm love. And of course, you can join our Slack channel as well. I take questions throughout the week at the anonymous URL down here. It's a one-question survey. I don't know who you are, so if you want to ask anonymous questions during the week, you can always use that, deltacx.link/AMA. And because of that, I have 3 questions that have already come in. So first, let me remind everybody that if you'd like to ask questions, in addition to the anonymous version, you can also ask them in the LinkedIn chat, the YouTube chat, and you can also tweet with hashtag DeltaCX, all one word. And my system should be able to catch all of these. And let's see. Let's fire all my windows up. And I know it might be a bit of a strange day to stream, but people said they wanted distractions from the known universe. So here I am. So let's start with the 3 questions that I already have, and then we'll get to any fresh new questions that anybody would like to add on to that. So let's start. The first question I got during the week was, have you ever needed or got requested to work on something that went against your values or a project that was in an ethical gray area? If yes, how did you handle it? What if you can't get out of it? So I think that the first thing we have to talk about here, especially when we're talking about ethics, is that everybody's going to have their own opinion on ethics. So what I think is ethical might not match what you think is ethical. So first of all, I'm not going to dictate my own ethics onto you. But it sounds like the person asking this has been asked to do something or work in an area that they find unethical and they don't know what to do. First of all, you can always get out of it. You could quit that job. Now, obviously, in a pandemic and a down economy, it seems like we want to hold on to every job that we can. I understand that, but you have to ask yourself, can you find another job? Can you start trying to find another job? Is it worth what might be unethical or feeling like you've sold your soul? Can your future self live with this? You know, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a couple of small dark patterns or if it's something much larger and much more upsetting, like some of the things you hear that people at Facebook are doing that they learn later were quite hurtful to other people. I couldn't live with that. So that being said, have I ever been requested to work on something that went against my values? I usually stay out of that stuff. I've been pretty lucky that I've managed to stay out of that. There were a couple of times I was on the edge of that, and I basically either quit or they didn't select me for the project. That happened a couple of months ago. Someone was considering me for a project, and it sounded great, and the company was a company I liked well enough, and then all of a sudden I learned that the project was for the company's lobbyists. It's not that I think all lobbyists are unethical, but in general I don't love lobbying. So I thought maybe I could work on this, but it didn't completely sit fantastically with me. But again, in the scheme of ethical and unethical things, lobbyists are definitely not the worst, and sometimes they're lobbying for things that are helpful to people. Not every lobbyist is looking to destroy the earth. So they didn't end up picking me, so I didn't have to go there. I think that if I were in a situation where I felt something were unethical, I would raise that with my manager. Obviously, if it's a company known for being unethical, like a Facebook, you're probably not going to be able to get away from an unethical project. So I do recommend that people always keep their resumes and their portfolios updated. You don't want to be caught going, oh, now I have to update my portfolio, because nobody wants to do that. always keep them updated. And I would say start looking for another job, because chances are if you think your company is doing something unethical now, it's probably either going to continue the same or get worse. These are rarely things that improve on their own. The company magically doesn't get more ethical. You can look up the Decision Genome by Mike Davidson. It's not a book, it's just a blog post he wrote explaining what he calls the decision genome, and I refer to that a lot. So I would say chances are this is a company you might have to walk away from, and you can always get out of it by quitting. You might also be able to get out of it by going to HR and saying, this is unethical, can I please be put on another project? But again, that implies that your company is doing something beautiful and ethical in one area and super unethical in the other, and somehow they're not going to taint each other. So I think those are the things that I would be doing. But I would probably be trying to walk away from that company on the assumption that the unethical tends to spread like a disease. And I see 2 more questions are coming in. You will be questions 4 and 5. We've got some questions already ahead of everyone today because I got some during the week. So I hope everyone will be patient, but you know that I always stick around and try to answer all the questions. So let's see. The next question was an interesting question. And again, when people send me questions like these, I would love if you would send me some URLs, because this person threw a term at me. I Googled it to make sure I understood it the way they were asking it, but who knows if I found the right article or not. So I might answer this whole question, and then this person might write to me and go, no, that really wasn't the right definition of that. You found a bad article. So whenever you're asking me what I think of certain concepts or things like that, always great to throw me an article that matches how you see this concept so I can answer that more directly. That being said, the question I got says, "Hi Debbie, are you by any chance familiar with the Scandinavian tradition in terms of design? I guess the most prominent outcome would be participatory design. As an avid opponent to the democratization of anything UX related," that's me, "what is your take if you're familiar with participatory design?" Okay, so I Googled participatory design to make sure that I was getting it. We've got Elijah in the chat room who says, "In my bit of experience, sometimes they're not trying to be unethical. It could just be they're taking shortcuts or something. In those cases, you can educate them about why it's unethical and could harm the company in the long run and give good alternatives." Always possible as well. Always possible. If these things are happening by accident or because of one bad apple at the company, I can agree with Elijah, but I would always keep that resume and portfolio polished up. So going back to participatory design, I Googled for it, and again, I found an article. It may or may not have been the best article, but this article was on uxpassion.com. I'd never heard of them before. It's an article from 2015. And here's what it says participatory design is. It says, participatory design, also called cooperative design, is an approach to designing products. It involves stakeholders, designers, researchers, and end users in the design process to make sure the end product meets the needs of the intended user base. Okay, so my initial reaction is, what type of UX are we doing or were we doing that we were creating products that didn't meet the needs of the intended user base? So I feel like, what are we changing from here? The article continues to say, the majority of consumers believed, I don't know where they got the statistic, it sounds made up. The majority of consumers believe they're not being designed for by the companies they bought their products from, but designed at and forced to adapt to ideas and principles that weren't intuitive to them. In order to fix this, participatory design is a creative invention aimed to actively include end users into the design process. Again, I can't find what's so new about this. This article, sure, it's 5 years old, but it's acting like this is so incredibly new and innovative and wow, imagine doing this. And my thought is, when wasn't I doing this? So I don't get it. They're claiming the opposite of this is empathic design. Again, this is 5 years ago, in which researchers and developers move into the world of the end users. Not a bad thing if you've done qualitative research to know what those worlds are. Participatory design can be seen as relocating end users into the world of research and development. It's important to note that while the users are a valuable source of information and ideas in participatory design, they're not allowed to make decisions and are never empowered with the tools that experts use. I wasn't even sure what that meant. Does that mean they don't get sticky notes? What are we not giving them? The article continues to say participatory design sessions are exercises where we give users the tools to create and design mock-ups of software. That sounds like we're giving them the tools that experts use. So I'm not impressed with this, but let's keep going. And the users can mock up products they would love to use in a perfect world scenario while asking them to explain why they built this product that way. So again, I've heard about stuff like this before where people want to literally bring users into co-design sessions and have users wireframing or building things. And it says in the article, when should you run a participatory design session? 3 bullet points. When you want to better understand how people think about a given problem, discipline, or technology, run a participatory design session. I disagree. It sounds like I may or may not learn how they think about something. Wouldn't that be better to have just done observational research and interviews? Wouldn't that tell me how I can understand how people think about things? I'll learn that better, I think, from that than asking them to come in and wireframe. The other reason to run participatory design session, when you have a feeling that what the users say they do and what they actually do are not the same. Again, I would know that from observational research, which is, to me, still the better way to go. And the third reason they claim to do it, when you feel like there is or could be cultural or political disconnects between you and the end user, the participatory design would be a good way to observe and learn from the user. Okay, but you're observing them trying to design the product, not... So again, I would have to say that based on the definition I found, this really doesn't make sense. I think observational research is going to be a much better approach to learn these things, and that we don't want to bring people in and try to make them into junior UX designers and solving their own problems. Frederick says, this is not the greatest article, Debbie. This is not something new. It's quite old. Go back to the 60s. I can send you articles that can explain it, but they're research articles and long and heavy. Yeah, I kind of don't want research articles that are long and heavy, but if I'm Googling participatory design, that's what this says, participatory design. I'll Google it again and let's see what else we get. Here's Wikipedia. Participatory design is an approach to design attempting to involve employees, partners, customers, citizens, and end users in the design process to ensure the results meet their needs. That sounds the same. In several Scandinavian countries during the 60s and 70s, this was rooted in work with trade unions. Participatory design claims to empower users and democratize. For others, it is seen as abrogating design responsibility and innovation by designers. So again, you can send me whatever article you like. I may not make time to read it, but if I'm Googling and this is what I'm finding, then this might be what people think it is. It's like sending me an article from the 70s about design thinking and saying, well, now what do you think of design thinking? Well, I think design thinking now is garbage, but in the 90s and before it sounded pretty good. So I would say that anything to me that looks like co-design, I'm against. Anything that sounds like we're bringing in users to wireframe their own ideas and try to design their own problems, I believe is quite flawed, because I believe that in general, many users and customers are not even aware of their own problems. They understand the tasks they're trying to accomplish, but they might not understand what their problems are. And the story I like to tell around that is a time I was in an airport and I was getting on a flight. And they were making people gate check their bags. If you don't travel much, that's where you have to give your small suitcase at before getting on the plane, and they'll give it back to you right when you get off the plane, right outside the plane. And it's called gate checking. And normally you get a little ticket with a barcode, at least in America. And they were giving out these things, and there was a woman who did not understand the process at all. She put the barcode on her pocketbook. She put nothing on her suitcase. She left her suitcase at the end of the thing, and then when she got off the plane, she went straight to the baggage claim, and they brought out her bag, and she was already gone. What would happen if we brought her in for a participatory design or a co-designing session? She doesn't even understand where that process went wrong. She didn't understand that she lacked the knowledge to do the right things based on how the company saw that process. And the company didn't seem to notice or care what she understood about the process. They just gave her the ticket and said, "Gate check your bag." So Frederick says, this isn't his question. PD is an avid tradition and practice today, but these articles don't capture it. Well, what can I tell you? These are the articles I'm finding, and when I have heard participatory design talked about in the past, this is the definition I was given. So if there is some other definition that is not clear to me. I don't know what other definition there is. Frederick, do you want to give me the 1-sentence version, the 2-sentence version? Because Frederick, I feel like you're acting like I'm way off on my answer here, but this is the information I have. The problem is that if we bring people in and ask them to solve their own problems, it's already a bit skewed. Not everybody has a clear understanding of their own problems or where their processes are going wrong. They only know they have a certain task to accomplish. And you can try to bring people in and say, how would you best accomplish your task? But I can also do that in observational research studies, and I can do that in interviews, and I can say, well, you know, what do you wish happened here? How would you redesign this page? What would you do to make this more efficient for you? And I think that's very different than bringing people into a workshop atmosphere where they might feel under some sort of pressure to fix their own problems. And so I would still have to say I have not yet found a situation under which I am for whatever we want to call this, whether we're calling this Scandinavian or participatory design or co-design or workshop or design thinking or design sprint or lean UX or democratization or decentralization. I'm not for any of it, and you're welcome to see my previous live stream podcast episode on collaboration versus democratization versus, what was it again? I forgot the rest of the title. But if you just look up on YouTube Delta CX collaboration, I'm sure you'll find the hour or so long podcast that I did. Oh, Maggie's here. Hi, Maggie. I was thinking about you today, Maggie. So I guess that's the answer that I will give. And just to add to that, I wrote a note earlier today because I got this question. I wrote, I'm not sure why we keep trying to turn mission critical work into games and toys and shortcuts. You want to know what people are doing? Run a correctly planned, executed, and interpreted observational study. I'm doing that right now. Which do you think will learn more about the customer? Me and my partner meeting 70 people and observing them, or bringing in 1 or 2 people to play with Legos and write breakup letters to companies? So that's what I think of that. And if I have the wrong definition, I apologize. But I'm going to recommend to people in the future that if you are asking a question that is about a technique or process or model, give me 1 or 2 links to how you see or understand this so that I can make sure I'm responding to what you see. Because even though Frederick's in the chat room saying, no, that's not this at all, maybe it is this to the person who asked. We don't even know. So there you go. I'm going to stick with that for now, and if we get a follow-up to this question and we learn that participatory design is nowhere near what I've just said, then we can deal with that later. I will happily re-answer the question if I get fresh information, so you're all welcome to send in the follow-ups. Let's see. Next question was from a friend of the show. When should you use A/B testing versus comparative usability testing? Now, I think some people might think that these are interchangeable. And again, this is going to be one of those areas where I might have a slightly different definition than other people. But my impression is that normally A/B testing is let's test what we have now, that's usually the A, against a B, which is some other new or variation concept. And very often, not always, but very often an A/B test goes live to the public, and you can do it as a percentage of people. Like, let's say 10% of the visitors to our site are going to see B instead of A, and we'll see how that goes, kind of as an experiment. But that also means that ahead of time, you've set up some metrics, and these metrics are usually going to be quantitative. They're not going to be qualitative, and they're usually going to be based on things the business wants to see the customer do. They could be based on what the customer wants to do, but very often it's the business's idea of things. And so it might be, we want to see more conversions. We want to see people buying more often. We want to see them spend more money at once. We want to see them sign up for more licenses, whatever it might be. But it's usually something measurable so that so we can say, people who do A convert 2% of the time. People who do B convert 3% of the time. Wow, B must be better. So very often that's what happens. Again, that's not always, but that's very often. It's not necessarily a study of the usability of either of these. It's usually a test of which one performed better based on the goals that we've set out and the things we're going to measure. Comparative usability, I Googled it today to see if my definition of it matched the universes. And again, as we saw from participatory design, maybe it doesn't, maybe it doesn't. But it looked like it was more when you're in the UX testing universe of things, where you are trying to take a look at maybe two different ideas. But the articles I read said that sometimes the comparative usability testing is also, you try to measure it quantitatively. So for example, version 1, people took 2 minutes to complete the task. Version 2, people took 3 minutes to complete the task. Version 1 must be better. They completed the task faster. And so for the versions that I saw today in the Google world made it seem like you are measuring these things with some sort of numbers. But I would have to say, when I have usability tested more than one idea at the same time with the same group of people, like, hey, task 1 is do this in version A, task 2 is do this in version B. First of all, you have to make sure half of your subjects see A first and half of your subjects see B first, because you don't want B to always be the winner because they saw it second and they had a little bit of knowledge from seeing A. So you've got to be a little scientific about that, switch it up. But I'm usually not looking necessarily at the quantitative things, like how many people completed the task or how many minutes did it take them to complete the task. I'm usually looking more about I'm not speaking well tonight, task success from a more qualitative perspective. Did that seem to be easy for people? Did it seem to be logical? Did it seem to be intuitive? Did they make a mistake? You know, if somebody finishes something faster than the other one, but they made more mistakes and somehow got through it, is that still the better one? So I would say that when I am usability testing more than one idea at the same time, we want to be a little bit scientific about it. And I want to make sure I'm also looking at the qualitative things to try to determine which one did better and not just go by a number or a measurement, because sometimes it's not the best way to measure success or any particular outcome. So let me know if you have a follow-up question to that. Hopefully the person who asked that will find that helpful. Who can say? By the way, did this ever go live on LinkedIn? I usually get some LinkedIn questions by now, and LinkedIn is quiet. Oh, it is live on LinkedIn. Anyone watching? 2 people. Hello, LinkedIners. How are you today? How's everybody doing today? All right. Can you believe we're almost half over already? Those are some long answers. Okay, let's jump into the next one. Next question, which just came in, is what tools are helpful when doing UX research, and how does the research team best help disseminate this information and ensure according action from the rest of the team? Okay, so here we're talking about tools. And I would say that in many cases, the tools you pick for your UX research are really not the core of this. Hey, Sabrina, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope the move went well. Hope you're safe and happy up in the north. In general, except for Acture, which y'all know I love Acture, and I'll be teaching it in early December, so please sign up for the reduced price course. Other than Acture, I tend to be a bit more tool agnostic. I don't get too caught up in which tools I'm using, because ultimately it's about how you use any of these tools. Whether you're using this for transcription, or this for your repository, or this for your virtual whiteboard, it all comes down to how you're using it, and it really comes down to you. If you are not a great researcher yet, if you are not strong with deductive reasoning and logic and finding those patterns and putting on that detective hat, all the tools in the world might not help you. And if you're great at that, you might not care which tools you have. So I'll just say the tools aren't that important. I'm saying that now, but I'm actually secretly working on building a tool for UX research. So maybe next year I'll say none of them are important except this one. But seriously, the tools are not important, even when I have my own. But let's talk about the rest of the question. How do you disseminate information and ensure action from the rest of the team? So I think number one, you have to make your insights actionable, and you have to be clear about what you're expecting people to do and why. Now, one thing I find can work against you is if you get too specific, or if you act like, this is what you should do, the end. You know, we did this research, now do this or else. It can kind of turn other people off. So make sure you have connected with teammates in UX, other stakeholders and people, and just to learn what they're expecting from your research. So like the research I'm doing now, they want a spreadsheet of all the issues we found, prioritized how we see the priority. They want a monster report. They want it made into mini PowerPoints that we can give. They want a video clip montage. So there's a lot of different pieces we're going to provide, and we're going to have a lot of actionable suggestions, and we're going to make sure they are suggestions and not, oh my God, do this or else, and we're going to wireframe or prototype a couple of things. So how do we disseminate it? I find that, first of all, Ask your teammates, how would you like to get a research report? Do you like to see PowerPoints? You know, do you like to see a PowerPoint style thing where there's a couple of nuggets on each screen? Do you like to get, more Microsoft Word report documents types of things? Would you like me to shoot a video talking about how the research went and some of the things we learned? I would say, play to your audience. If they are PowerPoint or Keynote, give me the nuggets type of people, and you've written a long, almost academic document, there could be a disconnect there, and that can also lead to the actions not happening. So I would coordinate with them beforehand, and I'm a play to your audience person, so I would be making the documentation the way it works best for them. And, I think I'm going to create action on this project because we're giving them a prioritized spreadsheet of issues. We found 135 issues so far. I know that might be a bit of a muddy answer and maybe not exactly what you were thinking, but I think that the information has to be disseminated how people want to receive it. I do believe quotes from participants are important. I believe video clips, if you can anonymize them, or if it's not important that they be anonymous internal to the company, those can be very powerful. I will tell you that on the secret project I'm doing now, it's an observational study of 70 people. I've mentioned it a little bit before, and we had an interview. We had an observational and interview session that the client then watched, and by the end of the video, they were almost crying. And you don't have to make people cry, but it definitely makes me think that they got it and they saw how much this person was struggling, and I think they'll be more driven to do something. So we don't want to manipulate people's emotions, but we definitely have to figure out what do they need to see people dealing with, struggling with, not trusting, frustrated with, confused. My 4 horsemen of bad UX: frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. What do they need to see people struggling with to be inspired to create that action? So see what you can do. We've got a question from Ralitza, but I'm going to answer the other question first just because I like to try to take them in order to be fair to people who are waiting for me to answer their question. So we'll get that on the list. Our next question came in anonymously, so I don't know who sent it, but thank you. So the question says, when is it time to leave the security blanket of a job? One that provides training, but not the kind of method you learn best from. I learn best from shadowing and mentorship. I feel alone in my organization and responsible for so much, and I'm not proud of my work. I mostly work alone. The technical debt is tacking on, and I want to escape to improve myself. So I would say that this is a question that answers itself. When is it time to leave the security blanket of a job? When you say everything you just said after the question. When you say that you're not being supported the way you want. When you've been there long enough to know that it's not going to change or get better. When you've tried to talk to your manager and the manager didn't care or didn't follow through. When you feel alone, because feeling alone means you're not getting support. You might not even be treated as part of the team. You're not proud of your work. Whenever you're not proud of your work, it's time to go. I mostly work alone. Okay, I work alone a lot, but the rest of it is what I'm worried about. And I want to escape to improve myself. You've answered your own question. So I know that in a time like this with the pandemic and the economy, not everybody wants to leave a job because it is certainly secure or safe to have that money coming in. So I would say brush up that resume, brush up that portfolio, start trying to find that next job because even Oz is pointing out right now, you can leave a job when you have the financial means to be without a job. Right. If you can't quit and have no job and financially survive for a reasonable amount of time, then it's usually best to stay in the safety net job, even though it is ugly, but to be aggressively applying for jobs, talking to recruiters, interviewing, and hopefully you can find your way out in a couple of months and shift away from that. Remember, job hunting is rarely fast. Once in a while, the first thing you interview for falls in love with you and invites you on, but sometimes it can be months. So if you can't just quit this and shift to something else, like Oz is saying, then it's going to be best for you to keep doing what you can while you're there, but aggressively be looking for jobs, applying to jobs, talking to recruiters, reaching out to people in your network, things like that. Good luck. We have Ralitza's question and we have an anonymous question. Great anonymous question coming in. Really, they're all great. You guys rarely ask me bad questions. I haven't had too many bad questions. That's why I love doing this. Everybody's got super questions. Okay, so Ralitza's question was, hey, Debbie, what, in your opinion, makes great research plans and research reports? What should or shouldn't they contain? Ooh. And again, everybody knows that research is not my number one strength, even though it's something I do a lot and I think I'm good at it, but there are certainly people out there who are better than me. So I want to remind everybody that if health allows us, we are expecting Joel Barr, a well-known and beloved researcher and guest of the show, to join us as a special guest for office hours 2 weeks from today, and he is a professional researcher. So I would say I will try to answer this, but best to re-ask it when we see Joel, because he might have a better answer than I do. So, let's just be honest and know that sometimes somebody else has the better answer. So, What makes a great research plan? I have an answer that I know is different from what some other people say. So again, you can always find another opinion other than mine. But I think one of the things that make research plans the best is actually to not have a hypothesis. I know that goes against what a lot of people say. Everybody says, oh, start with your hypothesis so that you can then validate it or invalidate it. I find that very often when people start with a hypothesis, it can be automatic bias, whether or not they know it. Now they're either trying to prove or disprove this thing. And Frederick says, loves me some Joel. Agreed. So, as long as he's feeling well, we will have him on. But I know he has posted to LinkedIn that someone in his household tested positive for COVID, and he's not too sure what's coming. So obviously we send him lots of love and all of our love, and we really hope that he and his family will be okay. As for research plans, obviously you want to be able to outline, what do I expect to learn? How am I going to learn it? What might we do with that information? How am I going to recruit people? What am I going to ask them? Or in general, what might the discussion or observation be? How or where am I executing this? And so these are the types of things that would be in a plan. But again, I don't like to put in a hypothesis, especially if it is generative research. If we're really trying to learn about a problem space or about the customers in general or about the market in general or competitors, I don't want to have a hypothesis. I just want to learn everything I can. I don't want to say, I believe that customers buy from us because boop, boop, boop. Now let's see what we learn. Ooh, I might be biased. If I'm not really careful, I might try to prove myself right. See, I was right. Customers do, and I see this in portfolios all the time. I see people start with a hypothesis, they do some pretty shitty research, and then they declare their idea a good one. And I'm going, did anyone else just see that? Because that looked bad. So I do challenge people to sometimes not come up with a hypothesis, especially when it's generative research. If it is evaluative research, then you might have a hypothesis, or you might have some metrics that you're going to measure, like how long does it take people to complete a task? But I still tend to stay away from hypotheses, because the tasks that you create tell us the hypothesis. If we're going to have people practice signing up for this thing or booking an appointment, what's my hypothesis? I believe people will be able to book an appointment. I believe people will be able to book an appointment. I hypothesize that people will be able to book an appointment with no errors and it will take X minutes. Well, then you have to be prepared for what if it doesn't. And so I think that some hypotheses can work in evaluative, but in generative, I like to leave them out, though I know that advice runs contrary to what you sometimes hear. So I'm going to stick with that as my answer, and thank you for that question. This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Please remember, if you're on YouTube, won't you please subscribe? Usability test the subscribe button, research it, test it, check it out, run the task, click the bell, and of course tell YouTube, click the like button, tell YouTube this wasn't so bad after all. That would be very helpful to me. Anonymous question. How many participants do you suggest I have in my UX studies? 70 seems a bit much for the time frame, budget, and pace of development at the place where I work. I'm planning a 20-person observational study now, and that's often as far as I'm able to take things in terms of participants. Yeah, so let me be clear. In general, at least the rule of thumb that I am familiar with, though again, you can always find opinions, is that for each persona, or sort of target group of customers, you want to try to meet 8 to 12. You could meet fewer, you could meet more, but for this project, we shot for 8 to 12 people from 6 different groups, and that's how we ended up with 70. So we did some 8s, we did some 10s, we did a couple of 12s, and That's how we ended up with 70. Very often when I am doing some of my generative research, I am meeting 12, I'm meeting 20, I've done 30. So to me, it really depends on how many target groups is this research trying to cover. So again, if you're covering 2 or 3 groups, 20 is probably great. If your company has 5, 6, 7, 8 really different types of customers or personas, 20 might be a little light, because then you're going to end up talking to 2 or 3 people. They could be outliers or fluky or weird or whatever. So I would say the rule of thumb is 8 to 12 for each of your personas or customer types. That's why we've landed on 70, because this client actually has 5 customer types. We did 8 to 12 of the 5, and then we wanted to do a special group of 10 at the end, which I can't explain why, but just trust me. And so that's how we ended up with that large number. But I understand that that large number is not common, but I would say this is a very large, very famous international company, and it's the type of research their company had not really done before. So we were going to be bringing something to the company that, for the most part, they haven't really seen. So we wanted to kind of go big on it, and I would say we have. I am caught up, so let me know any other questions. This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. How's everybody feeling today? How's the weather where you are? Ask me anything about anything. We do this every week at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Everyone's been changing and not changing clocks, so please check time zones to see where the heck Italy time is related to you. I am drinking my usual, which is water with, I have this like powdered grapefruit, unsweetened powdered grapefruit. What are you drinking? And do I want to know what you are drinking? Hey, is anyone a good artist? I really need to start having people work on merchandise. I'm getting all these requests for all kinds of shirts and things, and I'm a terrible artist, as you all know, because I made that. And I really need to hire the Delta CX merchandise artist. So if you'd like that job and you're up for a split of profits, let me know. Oz is having apple cider. Oz, is that alcoholic cider or good old-fashioned apple cider? Excuse me, Maggie's up to coffee. Well, it's still morning there, right? 10 a.m. or so? Coffee. She's drawn 2 cups. So I'm going to say Maggie is 2-fisted coffee. Double coffee. Oh, you updated your picture. Ralica says decaf. I'm right there with you. I'm allergic to caffeine. I am naturally like this. Can you imagine? It's so true. Crackly jaw. I am caught up. Where's the questions? Well, don't forget, you can also ask anonymous questions if you want to complain about your life or your boss or your job. You can write to deltacx.link/AMA. It's a 1-question survey. I use Survey Gizmo, not sponsored. I completely overpay them. And they are rebranding. I don't like their new name. They were Survey Gizmo and now they're Alchemer, as in alchemy. Isn't somebody who does alchemy an alchemist? So I don't understand alchemer. Oz says, plain old apple cider. It's 10:10 a.m. here. No day drinking. Come on, it's election day. I think there's a lot of day drinking going on in the USA today. You might as well get started now. I see Slack is blinking. Oh no, it's just a reminder about our podcast tomorrow with special guest Nick Morgan, who's going to talk about job application dangers. So if you are applying to jobs, some hey look out warnings from me and Nick Morgan. I'll tell you what else is coming up on the program. I haven't scheduled too many podcasts coming up because I really didn't know how people are going to deal with this month. I had to turn my American SIM card off because I could not stand all of the robocalls and texts. Monday, I decided I'm not going to do a podcast. Tuesday will be office hours. So it looks like tomorrow and then Tuesday office hours. And Wednesday, I'm speaking at 3 conferences. Is that right? I'm speaking at 2 conferences on Wednesday, so we're not doing Wednesday. Speaking at a conference on Thursday. Hey, everybody, come see me on Thursday. I'm Thursday the 12th. I'm doing the Tech Circus Big CX conference. I'm writing an all-new presentation for that. I don't even remember what it's called. It's something like CX and UX strategies to reinvent the customer experience. It's a little bit more aimed at leaders and managers and executives, but it's something that if you like, you can tell your boss to check it out. Oz says, good idea. It's election day. Let the day drinking commence. Kathleen says, hi all. Hi Kathleen. How's your day? Maggie says, did you get all of your dogs at the daytime, or how did you end up with so many doggos? Yeah, that is a non-UX question. I think you mean same time. So the story behind why I have 5 dogs is my boyfriend's family had adopted a brother and sister dog, Olivia and Romeo. And when I first met them, they were, 8 months old. They were so cute. And in America, our dogs are our children. And here, dogs aren't quite the same. They don't have the same love for them. So I'm like, gee, I think you should get this girl fixed. She's going to be looking for action. And everyone said, no, too soon, too early. What? No, why would we do that? And I was like, well, okay, I guess I'll stay out of it. I know from my personality, I don't usually stay out of it, but I was like, I'll stay out of it. I'm not going to tell these people what to do. And the next time I came back to visit my boyfriend, back when it was a long distance relationship, Olivia had 7 puppies that were 1 week old. That clearly had like 5 different dads. And I learned dogs can have puppies from 5 different dads, if not more. So we were going to get them all adopted out, but wouldn't you know, we fell in love with 2 of them. Diana, the low ego action hero is Diana, and we fell in love with Teseo, who I don't have queued up on any of the graphics. He's the one who I did the oh shit meme of, like that. And 4 of them got adopted, and nobody wanted Pisalo. So we kept Pisalo too. So we have Olivia, Romeo, and 3 of Olivia's kids. And then everybody got snipped. So everybody is spayed and neutered except Teseo, which is a longer story. So let's see. Kathleen says, I woke up thinking it was Wednesday. Really wish it was Wednesday. Let me know tomorrow if you still wish it was Wednesday. Let's see. Still no questions from office hours. Ask me anything, but I'm happy to take any questions. We'll add Maggie's question to the list since it technically is a question. But that is how we have so many doggos. And because we're on an acre of land and we have a huge fenced-in area at the back of the property where they can hang out very comfortably, even if we don't let them out, it's got to be like 25 feet by 40 feet. They hang out in there, they sleep there, and then during the day, if it's not hunting day and there aren't hunters going around shooting things, we let them out so they can run the rest of the land and sleep where they want and all that. But yesterday, Diana and Olivia escaped just as it got dark and were gone for 2 hours. Today we let Diana and Olivia run in the woods, and they were gone 7 hours and went 15 kilometers. So they're completely crashed out. I think Olivia's in a coma. Olivia, you sleeping? Do you want to be on Mommy's show? No. I can try. So Olivia the dog likes to hang out in the house. The others mostly live in the pen. Maggie says, I'm taking the day off tomorrow. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Good luck. What are you going to do? Hangover. See, are there any other podcasts I have coming up? Yeah, I'm planning something with Larry Marine on Monday, November 16. Whatever it is, it's going to be amazing because he's just the best. So please mark calendars for Monday, November 16. And Wednesday, November 18, I'm doing a podcast on job titles and job levels with Lee Andres, who I like to call Lee Andrese because it's Italian. And so check her out there. But that's really all I have planned. I've been hesitant to plan too much because I don't know if people are going to want the distraction or if they're going to want to crawl in a hole. So I'm here for you, and let me know if I should schedule more. But of course, everything's always archived. If you get bored, you can go back and watch 6 zillion hours of YouTube videos and tell friends about them. Maggie says, oh, interesting stuff in the calendar. Thank you, Maggie. I think so. I always try to put some interesting stuff. Who was here yesterday? We had our good friend Dr. Seth Finkel here to talk about earning respect. Maggie, we were talking about you, talking about owning it. Oh, Kathleen says, I'm halfway through the gaslighting episode. I got interrupted yesterday. Did you get gaslit yesterday during the gaslighting episode? No, look, that's not even funny. There's nothing funny about gaslighting. So yeah, hopefully that episode will be helpful and give you some other ideas. But again, depending upon what's happening at work, sometimes you just have to ask HR if you can move to another team, or you have to start looking for another job. Some of these things I find just can't be fixed. Other than that, the winter is making my hair gigantic and puffy. But I'm okay with that because women baldness runs in my family. So as long as I look like this, I don't mind looking like the cover of Kate Bush's Lionheart album because I have hair. So, it's all relative. And if I didn't have hair, that would still be okay. I would still find something I liked about myself. Elijah says, is there any insight you can give about creating design content as a newbie? Yes, we have talked about this a bunch of times. Let me copy and paste this question into the file. We have answered this a bunch of times. Episode 69 was about it, but I'm worried that our guest went over people's heads a little bit. And then the more recent episode of, if you were there for Darren and Dr. Nick, about a week or two ago, was, oh gosh, what was that called? It was how UX juniors can stand out. That one's got a little bit of an answer in there too. So creating design content as a newbie, I like making videos and podcasts about what I'm learning. My main advice, and also I'd love to know what kinds of things expert like you would want to hear from an entry-level designer. No offense, but I am not watching videos from entry-level designers. I usually work 85 hours a week, and I don't make a lot of time for other people's videos. And when I do, I've got to admit, I am mostly watching mindless, wacky crap. I don't know what YouTubers you guys are into, but I am mostly watching two-set violin, and I have recently discovered tasting history. So I'm not watching UX videos. I'm not listening to UX podcasts. I should. I'm sure Darren Hood's podcast is amazing, and I'm a terrible friend, and I haven't been listening to it. So I think, Elijah, the first thing that I would ask you is, who do you think is your audience? Because you said you'd like to know what things experts want to hear from an entry-level designer. Then you're thinking, I'm your audience. But I would imagine your audience are other entry-level designers who want to know what you're learning and what your process has been, or did you find a job? So I think, first of all, decide who your audience is and then cater that content to that audience. So if they are newbies like you, talk about your experiences. If you think they're experts, I don't even know what you would tell me. So I think you need to put a little UX research into that. Who is your audience and what is your message? Because just because you're learning something doesn't mean you're done learning it. And so I do tend to tell newbies and juniors, please don't write articles and do videos about how to do something, because you're still learning and how you're doing it might not be right. And if you teach other people the wrong way, how will you live with yourself? So he says, yeah, that's fair. So I would say step one, and also maybe roll back in the podcast time and look for personal brand on LinkedIn with Andy Foote. He might give you some ideas as well. I think he went over that type of thing. Not so much about being a newbie, but about like, what is your personal brand and how can you express it on LinkedIn? And then of course you can ripple that out to how you might express it on YouTube or in articles or something like that. But I would say, as I always say, there's a time to be the student and a time to be the teacher, and it might be your time to be the student. So what about your student process and your early learning can help others? I don't know. So, that might be for you to figure out. I'm sorry, I don't have a clearer answer there. Okay, I'm getting a response from support from a problem I had earlier. I will deal with that later, but their response looks non-helpful. So let's go to Marianne's question. I hope I've pronounced your name okay. And this says, how would you handle indecisive bosses? Let's put this question up. Ones who change their minds about their own decisions. Normally, the first thing that I do, two things that I normally do with those people is, number one, document everything. So if they make a decision, document it. And try to get that decision in an email. Then it's like, well, here's your email, screenshot email, put it in the documentation. Try not to get just words from that person, because then later on they can say, well, I never said that. I didn't decide that. So if you have a person who does a lot of the word thing, then I would translate it into written things and say, okay, you made this decision, and then email that person and say, I'm just confirming that you've decided that we're going to do 25 people for user research instead of 20, and they hopefully will write back, yep, that's what we decided. So I would try to make sure that someone who's words only ends up in something written, Slack, email, something that you can screenshot and say, see, this is what you decided. And then the other thing you will need to do, and we're already doing this with this, is we have to start predicting that person. We have to predict what they're likely to change their mind about and in which direction they might change it. If you can start to find the patterns of what they do, you can predict it. And that way, next time you can say, hey, I made this design, but knowing that sometimes you tend to go in this direction, I made this design too. And if you think they're both good, that's great. If you think only one of them is good, why'd you make the other one? But ultimately, if you do not have the power to make your own decisions, and that depends on your level. Maybe if you're junior, the boss makes decisions. But if you're senior or higher, you should be making your own decisions. I have very rarely had my own boss overrule my decision. So we have to take a look at what level you're at and who we expect to make a decision, because maybe it should be you. So again, I would try to predict what this person's going to do. I would assume that they're going to change their mind. I would start documenting it. And eventually, especially once you have some of this documentation in your possession, maybe you can call a meeting with that person and say, on this project, you started out by saying this, but then later on you changed to this. And that made me have to redo a lot of work that I wouldn't have had to do if you had made this decision earlier. On this project, same thing happened. You decided this, I did all this work, and then you changed your mind. How can we improve our process so that we can cut out, is there any way that we can improve this process so that there's fewer surprises and fewer changes of mind? Because I think it would help me work more efficiently and more decisively if the first decision is the decision. Otherwise, I'm typically left with a feeling like, I have no idea if I'm making the right thing because this person might change their mind. Now, I know it's hard for some people to have that conversation with their manager. It sounds like something that could easily become negative or confrontational, but I think it's still worth trying to figure out some way to go to that person with something like this. If you can't talk to your manager, I might go to HR and say, hi, I'm new here, or hi, I'm early in my career. I'm not yet comfortable going to my manager with this type of problem, but here's some of my documentation showing that my manager makes a decision. I spend days or weeks doing what this person said, and then they change their mind. And, I'm chasing ghosts here. I'm working inefficiently, and it's going to, and the thing that I would tell HR is, I'm worried that my boss is going to think I'm incompetent because he or she keeps changing their mind, and I'm trying to chase this ever-changing decision. How can we improve this process? I want to make sure I'm not being set up to fail. And of course, always brush up that resume and CV and keep looking for jobs. Marianne says, great idea, creating 2 versions. Thank you. And again, I would only create 2 good versions. There's no reason to ever design something that's terrible. If you are designing terrible stuff to try to make a manager happy, please leave that job, because we are here to make things that are great for customers so they can accomplish their tasks efficiently and logically and intuitively and with meaning. If you are shifting away from good designs to make something a manager likes, what are you going to put in your portfolio? Here's a shitty design I made, but it made my manager happy. Here's a time where I designed something I knew would be really good for our customers, but my manager overruled me and made me design what he or she wanted. So that's usually why I'm suggesting that where people can, don't quit the job tomorrow, but you start aggressively looking for something else, because sometimes these are workplaces that don't change, or sometimes the situation can change if you go to HR and say, maybe it would be best if I were on another team, if this company has teams or whatever. So that is an idea. Elijah says, yeah, other newbies are my main audience, but I know some potential hiring managers will check it out as well. How do you know that, Elijah? Seriously. How do you know hiring managers will watch your videos? And you're saying they're there to see my thought process. The word on the street that I keep hearing is that hiring managers will spend 90 seconds looking at your portfolio or your resume. Why would we assume that they're going to come to your YouTube channel or your video and watch more than any of it? I mean, when people give me portfolios and the portfolio links to a video about the project or even sometimes a prototype, I don't go. I say, I don't have time for that. I'm just going to skim this page. If I'm the hiring manager, I'm skimming this page or I'm reading this page until I see the thing that makes me go, yeah, I want to interview them. Or I see the thing that makes me go, oh no, I don't want to interview this person. So I don't know why we would imagine that a hiring manager that has 500 applications for this job is going to go watch your videos. And that's not you personally, Elijah. You're great. I like you. But I'm just saying in general, why do we imagine a hiring I once applied for a job where the company makes you watch an 18-minute video before you apply. And they even ask you trick questions in the application based on what they said in the video. So I shot them back a 16-minute video. They didn't even open it. So, I just did it for fun to see if they would. They didn't. So my thought is, I don't know, don't assume, never guess. Potential hiring managers might not watch your YouTube channel. They might look at your resume for 60 seconds. They might look at your portfolio for 60 or 90 seconds, and then they're going to judge you. The end. We are technically out of time, so I want to see if anybody has some last questions that I can answer. I know usually when I say any last questions, now I get 6 million, billion, zillion things. But I'll take any last questions. Other than that, once I end the stream, if you do have questions, please send them to the anonymous link. I do hold on to them for next week. And so when I'm back next week, we will start by taking those questions. And of course, these are always archived in the Office Hours playlist. You can always go back in time, read the YouTube descriptions to see what questions I covered. I'm not doing chaptering. I'm not going back and saying, 26 minutes in, I covered this. I haven't been doing that. It's so much work. But at least you can see the list of questions that I covered. Any last questions? If not, I hope we'll see everybody tomorrow to talk about some of the dangers and pitfalls that are in UX job applications, because there are definitely people out there trying to trick you or take you for a ride or give you unnecessary wheel spinning. Oh, something just came in. Elijah says, that's true. Thanks as always. Yep. So again, never assume anything about anything. Wait till you see what really happens. For me, I thought my audience would be pretty much exactly who it is. My audience are both new to UX and UX veterans who want to hear somebody fighting for the profession and the discipline, who isn't going to give clickbait and BS answers, and who isn't going to fill the universe with ego crap. I saw someone the other day, sorry, it's a bug. I saw someone the other day post to LinkedIn like, I got a thank you note when I said that portfolios should only be PDFs. And I was like, how nice for you that you got a thank you note that someone said it should be PDFs. My portfolio still isn't a PDF. And for the people who've turned me down, it hasn't been because my portfolio wasn't a PDF. We really have to stop turning things into wars and battles that are so meaningless. Put your portfolio in whatever format an employer expects to see it in. If they expect a URL, send them to a website. If they upload your portfolio, they expect a PDF. Prepare both. This is not a battle of who's right about this. I don't know why this person is even posting these things. I got a thank you note. I am so sick of all of the egotistical stuff. I do not post, hooray for me, look what I've done. I very rarely post these things because you don't care. Let's face it, you don't care. You just don't. And that's what and so anybody thinking of writing an article, posting a post, shooting a video, ask yourself, does anyone else care? Or is this just me stroking my own ego? So, and then if you're stroking your own ego, don't do it. So that's it. I guess we will wrap it up. And everybody be well. Have a great day or evening wherever you are, as good as it can be. And I will see everybody tomorrow. And let's press all the right buttons today because I'm getting sleepy. And I will play us out of here. And I hope I'll see everybody in the Slack channel where hopefully someone will want the job of merchandise designer. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Delta CX is available for consulting and projects related to CX and UX strategy, leadership, training, problem finding, problem solving, and innovation. Learn more at deltacx.com.